Early Slavic Period. The Early Slavic Period is the time before any Russian state existed. Slavic tribes lived in forests and near rivers across Eastern Europe, usually in small villages made up of farmers and families. Each community had its own local leader, and everyday life was simple and based on nature, tradition, and seasonal cycles. The Slavs were not one united group, but they grew in number and spread into new lands. Trade with nearby regions brought new tools and skills. So when Varangian traders and warriors later arrived, the Slavs were already the main population in the area, ready for the first early state to form. Kievan Rus. Kievan Rus began around the 9th century when Viking traders came to the lands of the Eastern Slavs. They traded, built settlements, and sometimes ruled over the local tribes. Kiev became the most important city, acting as a center for trade, politics, and culture. The Prince of Kiev had control over many cities, but local leaders still managed their own villages and lands. Rivers were the main roads for trade, connecting Kievan Rus to the Byzantine Empire in the south and to northern Europe. This brought wealth, new ideas, and foreign goods. In the year 988, Prince Vladimir chose Christianity for his people, linking it to Byzantine culture and helping unite different tribes under one religion. Kievan Rus grew into a powerful state, laying the foundations for Russian, Ukrainian, and Belarusian history. Mongol Invasion. In the early 13th century, the Mongols, led by Chinggis Khan and later his descendants, invaded the lands of Kievan Rus. They were fast and fierce horsemen, and their armies conquered many cities. Kiev was destroyed in 1240, and other cities were forced to pay tribute to the Mongol rulers, who were called the Golden Horde. Life changed under Mongol rule. Local princes had to obey the Mongols, sending money and soldiers when asked. Trade continued, but the Mongols controlled the main routes and demanded loyalty. At the same time, villages and towns tried to maintain their traditions, farming, and local culture. The Mongol invasion weakened Kievan Rus, but also helped shape the future rise of Moscow as a center of power in the region. Grand Duchy of Moscow. After the Mongols weakened, Moscow became the most important city in the Russian lands. The princes of Moscow expanded their power through alliances, marriages, and battles, slowly taking control of nearby towns like Rostov and Novgorod. People mostly farmed, living in small wooden homes, but trade grew with other Russian towns and foreign merchants, bringing goods like cloth, honey, furs, and salt. Markets became busier, and towns slowly grew larger. Moscow's rulers built stone churches and stronger city walls, and introduced new laws to keep order. They still paid tribute to the Mongols at first, but learned how to organize armies and taxes. By the end of this era, Moscow had grown strong enough to lead the unification of the Russian lands. Tsardom of Russia. In 1547, Ivan the Terrible became the first Tsar of Russia, uniting the country under a single ruler. He expanded east into Siberia, sending Cossacks and explorers to map rivers, build forts, and collect tribute from local tribes. To control powerful nobles, he created personal force that enforced his orders and punished dissenters. Ivan organized his armies with muskets and cannons, preparing Russia for constant conflict. After his death, the state fell into the time of troubles, a period of chaos when foreign armies invaded. At one point, Polish forces even occupied Moscow. Ivan had earlier built St. Basil's Cathedral and strengthened the Kremlin walls. Life for ordinary people was harsh, but Ivan's reforms bring stronger centralized state and a Russian identity that stay for centuries. Russian Empire. In 1721, Peter the Great transformed Russia into an empire, modernizing its army, navy, and government to match Western European powers. He built St. Petersburg on the Baltic coast, a city of canals, wide streets, and grand palaces, meant to show the world that Russia had arrived. Nobles were sent abroad to learn science, engineering, and politics, while new schools, factories, and shipyards were built at home. Trade and industry expanded, and Russia gained ports on the Baltic and Black Seas. Catherine the Great continued this expansion, annexing Crimea, parts of Poland, and territories in the Caucasus, while promoting education, arts, and Enlightenment ideas among the elite. In the 19th century, Russia sold Alaska to the United States. They also built the Trans-Siberian Railway to connect Europe with the Pacific and strengthen control over its eastern territories. It faced major setbacks, including defeat in the Russo-Japanese War in 1905 and growing unrest at home. During World War I, Russia fought on the Eastern Front, suffering heavy losses and shortages. By the early 20th century, the empire ruled many diverse ethnic groups, but its gigantic size and rising instability made governance increasingly unsustainable and led to its collapse. Provisional Government. After the February Revolution of 1917, the Tsar was removed from power. A temporary government took over, promising reforms and elections. They tried to keep Russia in First World War, but people were tired, hungry, and angry. Soldiers and workers formed Soviets, challenging the government. The Provisional Government struggled to control the country and lost support quickly, making way for the Bolsheviks in October same year. Russian Civil War. After the Bolsheviks took power in 1917, Russia erupted into civil war. The Red Army fought the White Army, made up of monarchists, conservatives, and anti-Bolshevik forces. Battles raged from Siberia to Ukraine, causing massive casualties among soldiers and civilians. Foreign armies, including Britain, France, Japan, and the US, supported the Whites but failed. The Reds kept control of central Russia, organized their forces effectively, and used propaganda to maintain support. By 1922, the Bolsheviks succeeded, solidifying their power and forming the Russian SFSR, which would later become the USSR. Early Soviet Era. After the Civil War ended in 1922, Vladimir Lenin led the Bolsheviks to consolidate control over the new Soviet state. The government nationalized land, banks, and factories, and introduced the new economic policy to stabilize the economy. Schools, literacy programs, and healthcare expanded, while political opposition was suppressed. After Lenin's death in 1924, Joseph Stalin took control, launching forced collectivization and rapid industrialization, which caused immense suffering but transformed the Soviet Union into a powerful industrial state. By 1941, Nazi Germany invaded, triggering the Great Patriotic War. The Red Army defended fiercely, eventually pushing back the Germans, capturing Berlin in 1945, and establishing the USSR as a major global power. Late Soviet Era. After Stalin's death in 1953, the Soviet Union entered a period of cautious reform and political shifts. Nikita Khrushchev denounced Stalin's purges, initiated the Virgin Lands campaign to boost agriculture, and led the country during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The USSR advanced rapidly in space, launching Sputnik in 1957 and sending the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into orbit in 1961. Later leaders, including Brezhnev, focused on stability, but the economy slowed, corruption grew, and consumer goods were scarce. By the 1980s, the Cold War heated up again with Reagan promoting the Star Wars missile defense program. Mikhail Gorbachev introduced glasnost and perestroika, aiming to open society and restructure the economy. These reforms, however, accelerated nationalist movements and economic collapse, setting the stage for the Soviet Union's eventual dissolution in 1991. Yeltsin Era. Boris Yeltsin became Russia's first president after the Soviet Union collapsed. He worked to introduce democracy and move the country toward a market economy. Privatization of state industries caused wealth for some, but hardship for many. In 1993, he ordered tanks to fire on the Russian parliament during a political standoff, a move that stunned the nation. Later, his government launched the First Chechen War, sending troops to suppress the independence movement, leading to heavy fighting and civilian suffering. Putin's Era. Vladimir Putin came to power in 1999, promising stability after the chaotic 1990s. He strengthened the central government, increased state control over key sectors, and rebuilt Russia's economy. From 2008 to 2012, Dmitry Medvedev served as president, while Putin remained the dominant political figure as prime minister. Relations with neighboring countries became a central issue. In 2008, Russia fought a short war with Georgia over South Ossetia and Abkhazia, later recognizing both regions. During this period, Russia hosted the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, presented as a symbol of national revival. Tensions with Ukraine rose after 2014, following the annexation of Crimea and the outbreak of fighting in the Donetsk and Lugansk regions. Belarus remained a key regional ally under Alexander Lukashenko. Russia strengthened relations with China and maintained contacts with North Korea. while in Central Asia it sought to preserve influence among former Soviet states. Relations with Europe and the United States became increasingly tense over sanctions and security issues. The conflict with Ukraine remains ongoing, with no clear end in sight. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share your ideas for future videos in the comments. See you next time. Goodbye.